You downloaded a budgeting app because you wanted to stop wasting money. You categorize every purchase. You check it every morning. You feel like you finally have control. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Research in behavioral economics shows that the simple act of tracking your spending can actually make you spend more, not less. There's a specific psychological trap hiding inside almost every budgeting app on the market, and most people who use one have no idea it's working against them. By the end of this video, you're going to recognize this trap in your own habits, probably from this past week. And more importantly, you'll learn exactly how to use these apps so they finally do what you downloaded them to do in the first place. I'm Eunice, and this is Wealth Tactics, the channel where we break down the psychology hiding behind your everyday money decisions. Let's get into it. Let's start with a typical week because this is going to sound familiar. It's Monday morning. You open your app. Coffee, logged. Groceries, logged. Gas, logged. Everything gets neatly sorted into colorful little categories: food, transport, entertainment, subscriptions. There's something almost satisfying about it. Watching the little bars fill in. Watching the numbers update in real time. You feel good, organized, responsible. This is what financial discipline is supposed to look like, right? You're not one of those people who has no idea where their money goes. You know exactly where every dollar went this week. You could recite it back if someone asked. Friday comes around and a coworker invites you out for dinner. Normally, this might make you pause. Dinner out is never the cheap option. But you don't pause this time. Because somewhere in the back of your mind, you've already been doing the work. You've been tracking. You've been responsible all week. So this one dinner, you've earned it. Saturday, you add a streaming subscription you've been meaning to get. Sunday, you grab takeout because you're tired from the week. Each individual choice feels small and justified, and each one gets logged into the app right alongside the responsible purchases, sitting there in its own neat little category, looking just as orderly as everything else. By the end of the month, you've tracked everything perfectly. You also somehow spent more than the month before. Sound familiar? If it does, you're not alone, and you're definitely not bad at managing money. You've just run into one of the most well-documented psychological effects in behavioral economics, and almost nobody talks about it in the context of budgeting apps. This is called the licensing effect, sometimes called moral licensing. Here's the basic idea. When people do something they consider good or responsible, their brain quietly grants them permission to do something less responsible afterward, and they don't even notice the trade happening in real time. This wasn't first discovered in personal finance. It was first studied in completely different areas of life. Researchers found that people who bought environmentally friendly products were more likely to act selfishly or cut corners afterward, almost as if buying the green product had used up their quota of being a good person for the day. Choosing the eco-friendly option felt like enough good behavior, banked that other choices didn't need to be as careful. The same mechanism shows up with food, which is actually where it's been studied the most. Multiple studies on diet tracking apps found that people who logged a healthy breakfast were significantly more likely to choose a less healthy lunch later that same day, because logging the healthy choice made them feel like they'd already earned some slack they could spend later. The tracking itself became the reward, and the reward got cashed in almost immediately. Money works exactly the same way, and once you see it, you can't really unsee it. The act of tracking a purchase feels like the responsible behavior itself. Your brain doesn't clearly separate "I recorded this expense" from "I controlled this expense." Recording quietly becomes a stand-in for control. And once you feel like you've already been disciplined, because, look, it's all right there, neatly categorized, permission to loosen up doesn't feel like a risk, it feels earned. This is exactly why budgeting apps can backfire on people who use them faithfully every single day. They are brilliant at the recording part. They are, by default, almost completely silent on the controlling part. And most people never notice the gap between the two, because the app's entire design is built around making tracking feel like an accomplishment. Let's get specific. Here are 4 ways this exact pattern shows up in real budgeting habits. See if any of these sound like your own app. Example 1. The subscription graveyard. You open your app and see a subscriptions category neatly totaling $47 a month. Because it's labeled and categorized, your brain files it as accounted for, and accounted for quietly becomes fine. 3 of those subscriptions you haven't actually opened or used in 4 months. But since they're tracked and sitting inside their own tidy little box, they never trigger the alarm that an unexpected $47 charge would normally set off. Tracking turned a forgotten expense into a permanent fixture. Example 2. The necessary label trap. Most apps let you tag expenses as needs versus wants. Once something gets tagged a need, say, eating out twice a week because work has been stressful lately, your brain stops questioning it going forward. The label does the thinking for you from that point on. You stop asking whether it's actually necessary because the category already answered that question for you once, a long time ago, and nobody ever goes back to check the math. Example 3. The green checkmark effect. Many apps show you a satisfying checkmark, a progress bar, or a little "you're under budget" notification when you're tracking well early in the month. That positive feedback feels genuinely good, and like any reward, your brain wants to follow it with something pleasant. Often, that something pleasant is a purchase. The app designed to keep you disciplined ends up handing you the emotional green light to be a little less disciplined. Example 4, and this is the big one. The illusion of control. A study comparing people who actively tracked every single expense against people who simply set a hard weekly spending limit with no detailed tracking at all found something genuinely surprising. The trackers didn't spend less overall. They felt more in control. They felt more aware. They could tell you exactly where their money went, down to the dollar. But their total spending barely changed compared to the group with the simple hard limit and no tracking whatsoever. Awareness and control are not the same thing, even though tracking apps are specifically designed to make them feel identical. Knowing exactly where your money went last month doesn't automatically change where it goes next month. That second part requires something the app isn't doing for you by default. To be clear, none of this means tracking your spending is useless. It means tracking by itself is incomplete. It tells you, after the fact, where the money went. It does almost nothing on its own to stop the money from going there in the first place. So if tracking alone isn't enough, what actually works? Here are 4 changes that take the exact same app you already have on your phone and make it genuinely effective, not just informative. First, stop using tracking as the goal and start using it as the trigger for a hard cap. Pick one number, a real weekly spending limit you'd be uncomfortable going past, and treat the app's running total as a stop sign, not a diary. The moment you hit that number, spending stops for the week, no matter how reasonable the next purchase feels in the moment. The number does the deciding, not your mood. Second, turn off the feel-good notifications, or at minimum, stop treating them as rewards. If your app celebrates you for being under budget on day 12 of the month, recognize that feeling for what it actually is, encouragement to relax, and consciously choose not to relax yet. The notification is doing its job by making you feel good. Your job is to not let that feeling change your behavior for the rest of the month. Third, review your categories monthly, not your transactions daily. Daily transaction checking is exactly where the licensing effect thrives, because each individual purchase looks small and already logged, one at a time, never adding up to anything alarming on its own. A monthly category review, comparing this month's total in each category to last month's total in the same category, makes patterns visible that day-to-day checking hides almost completely. Fourth, re-question every necessary label every 90 days. Anything tagged as a need gets a fresh look every 3 months, no exceptions. If you can't justify it again from scratch, using today's situation instead of the situation from 3 months ago, it gets re-tagged as a want and reviewed under that much stricter standard going forward. None of these 4 changes require a new app, a new budget, or more willpower. They require redirecting the same 15 minutes a week you're probably already spending inside the app you already have. Here's the core idea to take with you. Tracking your money is not the same as controlling it. Your budgeting app is excellent at telling you a story about your spending after the fact. It is not, by default, built to stop you from spending in the first place. And the very act of using it faithfully can quietly make you feel like you've already done the responsible thing, even when the only thing you've actually done is take notes. That's not a flaw in you. It's a flaw in how almost every one of these apps is designed by default. And now that you know the name for it, the licensing effect, You'll probably catch it happening to you sometime this week, maybe even today. If this changed the way you think about your own budgeting app, subscribe to Wealth Tactics, because every week on this channel, we break down one more money trap your brain doesn't want you to notice. And if you caught yourself doing exactly what I described in this video, the subscription graveyard, the necessary label, the green check mark, any of it, drop a comment and tell me which one hit closest to home. I read everyone. This has been Eunice for Wealth Tactics. See you in the next episode.